Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sisterhood in Politics podcast brought to you by the Consortium for Intersectional Justice, an international expert body specializing in promoting democracy and business and human rights. So, my name is Chamindra Weerawardhana. My discipline is international politics, and it's my pleasure to host you. And my guest today in this inaugural podcast is Comrade Dipsita Dhar, a brilliant leader and the All India Joint Secretary of the Students' Federation of India, Comrade Dipsita. Lal Salam. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Great salutes to you too, comrade. Same here.
Oh, I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm delighted to host you in this podcast. So, Comrade, can we start with a word about your current role in the All
Mhm.
India Students Federation? What does it mean to be the All India Joint Secretary? It's just I mean, it's such a big constituency, right? Such a big
Mm.
space that you're covering. And to an international viewer or listener of this podcast who may not necessarily be familiar with the SFI, can you briefly share with us about, what this role entails and how the SFI developed? I mean, its core priorities and its SFI's unique relationship to Kerala and stuff.
Yeah. So, hello everyone. I hope I'm audible, I'm visible.
Indeed.
Uh, as Comrade has already introduced, I am the All India Joint Secretary of Student Federation of India. Student Federation of India, or SFI as it's called, it's the largest left student organization in India. We have more than 40 lakh students who are a member of our organization. And in India, except four states, in all the other provinces, in all the other states, we have our comrades, we have our organization running. And we draw back our history, or we draw back our lineage from the independence movement when the India was fighting the anti-colonial struggle. At that time, the students played a very important role. You'd be knowing that there are student revolutionaries like Bhagat Singh, who were actually thinking, mobilizing, organizing, militant struggle against the Britishers. And it's not only the militancy that we have been, inspired to, but it also the kind of ideological understanding they had. Bhagat Singh, as an individual, was very clear that he wanted India, which is a socialist India. We all know the story that when this his order of being hanged was given, just the day before he was hanged, the jailer came inside his room, and he said, "Please do not disturb me. I am having a conversation with another revolutionary. A revolutionary is having a conversation with another revolutionary." And the book that he was reading, it was a book written by Comrade Lenin. So. As a young man, as a young revolutionary, as a young anti-colonial activist, I think we draw a lineage from Bhagat Singh and the other people like Master Dashujo Sen, who did the Chattogram revolution, Kalpana Dotto, Pritilata Wadde, the people who were martyred,
Pritilata. Mhm.
the
From
very
West Bengal,
brave.
right? She's a Bengali woman, right? Pritilata?
Yeah, yeah. Pritilata was a Bengali woman, one of the bravest women. I mean, whenever we read her stories, she could have been, she had two options. One, to surrender to the British police. Another was to kill herself. She did that because for her, getting herself surrendered to the British was even worse than death. And that is the kind of people that we have taken our inspiration from. We started off as AISF, All India Student Federation, where people like even Nehru and Jinnah, everybody was part of. Later on in the 70s, we have there are some kind of disagreement on the role of Student Federation of India in a newly made country. A section of the AISF then leadership thought that since it's a new country, we just got our independence, we should have kind of a cooperative role with the new government, with the new Indian government. But the Student Federation of India, or the people who formed Student Federation of India later, we thought that if we have said independence, democracy, and socialism, it does not matter whoever is in the state, whoever is in the government. We should be pushing for our ideology. We should be struggling for ideology. And if the state behaves in a way which is anti-student, we should go for a confrontation. There should not be any cooperative measures taken. So from there,
Mhm.
Student Federation of India is formed. And Today, we are one of the most prominent student organization. If you're going to look into the central universities, let it be JNU, let it be HCU, let it be Pondicherry University a few days back, or even non-government universities like the TIS, where the Student Federation of India have won elections. We have been given the mandate to run the union by the students, by the majority of people. So yeah, that's what Student Federation of India is, and I have been. This is my second term serving as the All India Joint Secretary. Yeah,
Bless. So when did the second term start, comrade?
2022. Yeah.
2022, and the mandate is for how many years? The
I think this year we are going to have our next
Right.
conference. Yeah.
Oh, very good. So, thank you for that explanation, and also talking about the historical roots of this, right? The students' movement and how politics of the left were very important in the anti-colonial movement. And one wonders, like, what happened since then, because if you look at like even in places like Ireland, right, the anti-colonial struggle, the independence struggles, freedom struggles were led by people of the left, but after those struggles reached certain levels of achievement, things started considerably changing. So that's another conversation. But coming back to our conversation, comrade. So if we go back to your beginnings as a politician, as a student leader, how did your journey in politics begin, and what were your original inspirations?
Uh, to be very frank, when I was young, I never really wanted to become part of politics because
Mhm.
quite a lot of people in my family, I mean, all of them actually, they were active members of the Communist Party of India, Marxist. So I
Right.
have seen their lives. My grandfather served as the member of Legislative Assembly for 15 years. So I have seen that in their life, the private space is hardly there. They're always for the public, or I mean, they cannot take me out for some puja. They cannot take me out for some holiday. So all our life was very around the party. When the party's program is there, around that our life would be scheduled. So as a young girl, I thought it's absolutely nonsense. My parents do not love me at all. They do not give me any time. I want to live a life of a normal girl or a normal child. But I think things changed when I went to college. When I was in school, of course, I was a member of SFI. My mother used to drag me to all the party program that she will go, because since all of them are involved in the party, she cannot really put me anywhere. So whatever program she will go, she will put me in her lap and she's going to give slogan and all. So I have brought up in a very politically charged atmosphere, but I was not interested in taking part. But when I went to college, I understood that politics is not only about, giving slogan, or politics is not only about, attending meeting. The question is why politics is important. I remember when one girl, one comrade, one senior comrade, she came to our class. I was in a first year student, and she started saying that why one should join SFI. And she started saying what SFI does. So she was telling that, if your fee has been hiked, we are going to fight against it.
Right.
If you are not getting a course, if you're not getting your library made, we are going to fight for it. And I understood that as a daughter of a trade union leader, as someone whose father had been working in a factory, I know that if tomorrow my fee if just a 500 rupees hike happens, I'm not sure whether my father is going to be able to afford the education or not. So I felt that there are many people like me who come from working class background, people who had some kind of aspiration that they want to achieve something in their life with their own merit and efficiency. So I thought that the kind of society that we are in, the kind of system that we are in, this is not fair for us. So the reason why my father became a trade union leader, to safeguard his labor right, I as a student should join SFI, because I also have to protect my rights, so that
Mhm.
anybody like me can have the right to education, universal education, free education for all. So that's how my first kind of interaction with SFI started. And that was the time, it was 2010. And by 2011, the biggest thing in West Bengal happened. The 34 years, then
Right.
a left government, yeah, it just went by like that. And then I understood that a lot of people who are claiming themselves to be, leftist, CPIM, etc., etc., none of them were. They were all there because they're with the power. So
Mm.
whoever is going to be in the power, they're going to be, they're going to align with them. So that time I thought that, okay, I just becoming a member is not enough. I have understood the ideology. I believe in this ideology, and I believe that to safeguard people like me and the working class people in general, there is certain kind of relevance that ideology has. So this is my time to take little more initiative, maybe. So I always say that I want to thank Miss Mamta Banerjee, just because she has defeated the left government. I have become part of the left politics, or maybe I won't have. So I mean, jokes apart. But yeah, from that time, I think our involvement with the my involvement with the organization had deepened. I became the unit president of my college. Then I became the district committee member of Kolkata. And it is during that time only one of our Comrade Shudipto Gupta, he was one of our committee member. He was a senior. He was killed by the police. He was killed by the Mamta Banerjee police as we were running a rally demanding that there should be union election in every school, college, university, educational institutions. So I think his martyrdom, his killing also somehow influenced me. I mean, there's a certain sense of guilt, to be very frank, because the last rally where Comrade Shudipto Gupta was killed, I could not become a part of it. I had my examination, I had to go for the exam, etc. So I always felt that I owe something to Shudipto Da, as we used to call him fondly. Dada means brother in Bangla. So, as we have seen his dead body, a boy who always used to laugh, who used to sing, who used to slogan, uh, he was martyred, he was killed because he believed in a certain kind of ideology. He was killed not because he was asking something for himself, but for a future generation, for the democracy at large, for participating and practicing in democracy. I think from that time onwards, of course, I was involved with the organization, but the jill, the spirit, the intensity with what I started engaging with the left movement, that increased, manyfold after that incident. So yeah.
So, and also, what you said about Mamata Banerjee, it's very interesting, about 2011, and that you got to see, like, people, I mean, who are the people with genuinely leftist perspective, and who are the people who engage in politics of the left with other motives, right? And I mean, this is, I think, a global phenomenon as well. So there are so many people with savior complexes, and people who don't really understand what it means to engage in politics of the left. Like, if you're someone with considerable privilege, right? If you're, let's say, a very Savarna person, your seat in politics of the left is a back seat, right? And people who fail to fathom those realities. And thank you for also sharing about your comrade who was martyred. And we'll talk about in a second about the politics of West Bengal since 2011, and police brutality, and how things have been. But before that, in the early days of your political engagements, what kind of systemic barriers did you come across? Did you come across forms of sexism? Did you come across forms of efforts to marginalize you or shut you down, or things like that? What kind of experiences did you come across?
So I think not in the initial days, because I think during the time when I started joining SFI, we are in such a space that you hardly had any people with you. So I don't think there are many people to actually push you back. They needed people, anyone and everyone was welcome. So I'm not going to judge any organization or any society on basis of that, because at the time of crisis you really do not show your true colors. It's actually later. If you're going
Mhm.
to even look into the Indian politics at large, or the Indian freedom struggle, you will see the woman played a very important role, even
Right.
during the whole militant tradition. Just told about Kalpana Dotto, I told about Pritilata Vaddedar, Ila Mitro. But if you're going to look into the representation of women later on time, you'll hardly find them. So this is why I say that I don't want to judge, because they became the leader because that time nobody was deciding who is going to be the leader, whoever could lead, whoever could organically organize, they were becoming the leader. Now, the
Mhm.
moment you have certain kind of state power, the moment you have certain kind of bureaucratic power, and it is the structure or some people who is in the, in the top of the structure, who has the power to select that or decide that, okay, he or she is going to be the leader, you will see there is a huge dip in woman representation. And not only women, if you're going to look into the Muslim representation, the Communist Party, the communist movement, the Muslims played a huge role. We all know about Muzaffar Ahmed. He is fondly
Mhm.
called as Kaka Babu. Kaji Nazrul Islam, who is the national poet of Bangladesh. I mean, I'm talking about a time when Bangladesh, Pakistan, all these things were not there. We have the
Mhm.
shared heritage of struggle as well. But if you're going to look into later on in India, the representation of Muslims are hardly there. If you're going to look into the Dalit representation, the tribal representation, that is nowhere to be found. The irony is the first freedom struggle or the first struggle against the Britishers were done by the tribal people or the indigenous people. Sidho
Mhm.
Kanho, two tribal leaders who, organized people against the Britishers and the local landlord, saying that this forests are our home. From this forest we get our livelihood, and we are not going to give it to anyone. So it is. I mean, it's ironical to think that even after such progressive struggles, etc., people who are coming from margin, including the women, Muslims, Dalits, the indigenous people, they have not been represented enough when there is a certain kind of structure and bureaucracy we are following. So I would say that as an individual, what I faced is, I believe if you're a woman, there is a double burden of performance. The double burden, it seems, I remember when I became the joint secretary for the first time, I think it was 2019. I was the first woman who became a joint secretary from the center. Earlier, we had joint secretaries who are coming from the state. So the state secretary or the president become the joint secretary or the vice president. So if there is a woman, say state secretary from Kerala, she's naturally going to be the joint secretary. If there is a state secretary from Bengal, she's naturally going to be the joint secretary. But I was becoming a joint secretary from the center who is not coming from a state. So I was supposed to, work from the center. And I remember a friend of mine telling that, Dipsita, this is a challenge not only for you, but for the upcoming generation of women. If you fail, if you are not able to perform the way you should be performing, they are not going to make any woman in the future citing you that, oh, we made this one girl, but see, she couldn't do anything. So I remember that one line. I took it so personally, and I always had this in back of my mind that I have to perform more than anyone. I have to prove myself twice: one as an organizer, one as a joint secretary, and second as a woman joint secretary. I don't think my male colleagues, I mean, they're extremely wonderful comrades, but I don't think they had this added pressure that I had as a woman to prove myself continuously. The
Mhm.
second thing is, even within the progressive spaces, no, there is certain kind of gender division of labor. So what kind of work that you do, even if you have women in your organization, women are looked more as a decorative piece. So if somebody is coming, the woman is going to go to greet them in Bangla, or in Hindi we call them, okay, unko, matlab, to facilitate them, that, okay, giving them flowers, giving them gifts, all those kind of things are going to be done by the woman. While who becomes a leader, who becomes the leader of the committee, on those time you're not going to consider women as much as you're going to consider the men. And
Mhm.
I'm also the girls convener within the SFI. So there also we try to teach that, or we try to have this conversation within the organization, that do not see women as some people who need to be there to complete your quota. As we were discussing earlier, that in SFI also we have this thing that any committee that you form, 30% of it has to be women. So do
Mhm.
not see that you only have to have 30%. We are saying 30% is the minimum. Minimum
Mhm.
30% has to be there. It doesn't mean that, okay, 30% women are there, so we don't have to intake any other woman. That is not the idea. The idea, 30% woman is a minimum representation. We have this thing that even if you are doing a big program, a big meeting, there has to be at least one woman as a speaker. The question is that at least one woman. It's not like there is only one place for a woman speaker. So if there are two people cannot speak. The similar kind of thing is not applied for men. There can be four men leader. But for the woman leader, you have to choose one among the five. So those kind of mentality, I would be lying if I say that it's not there in my organization or the party I believe, because my organization and my party both are the product of the society that we are in, a society which is inherently casted, which is inherently patriarchal, sexist, misogynist, etc. I believe that we are supposed to create a space in organization where people are challenged, people somehow question themselves, people somehow learn to unlearn that, okay, this is what my mother have taught me, this is what the society has taught me, but this is wrong, let me question it. And it's not only for the men, even for women, a lot of us internalize patriarchy so much, we also kind of agree to the logic that patriarchy is giving or the men are giving and side with them. So this is something that I mean, the some how do you say, the glass ceilings that I have faced, and in my capacity within the organization, I tried to create that conversation among the young cadres, both men and women. So somehow, maybe in 10, 20, 50 years, whatever I have faced, whatever added pressure Dipsita has to take in 2019, in say 2034, another girl who is becoming the joint secretary, she don't have to perform twice. She can just become a joint secretary. She don't have to be a woman joint secretary.
Mhm.
So yeah.
What a precedent you have set. I mean, that's so important, because when we think about politics of the left, when we think about feminist organizing, I mean, black feminist leaders in North America always say this, the fruit of what we do today, we
Mhm.
might not even be around to see the fruit of it. It's a continuous process. So the precedent you have set, I think, is it's really, really important and real food for thought. Thank you for sharing those perspectives. So to kind of continue along those lines, see, many years ago, my fellow Sri Lankan Professor Kumari Jayawardena wrote about gender and the left, right? Like the left is supposed to be a supposedly progressive space
Mhm.
where we talk about class politics, we talk about social transformation, we talk about challenging very oppressive capitalist
Mhm.
practices and so on. But, however, Kumar says, when it comes to challenging the patriarchy, the male comrades on the left, right? It's not the easiest thing for them to tackle with, to put it as diplomatically as possible. So, in general, when we think about the left, right? I mean, this has been the case not only in our home region in South Asia, this has been the case everywhere. Like, I used to be involved in some politics of the left in the United Kingdom a few years ago. And I noticed the extent to which these issues are still prevalent, So we talk about parity, we talk about the quotas, like you said. However, when it comes to going beyond a basic understanding of equality, there are difficulties. So, um, well, would you consider your brand of politics as feminist politics, or is there a space in the left for critical, socialist, feminist political interventions in your context or in other parts of the world? What are your thoughts on that one?
uh, I think it will be very sad that if you're a Marxist and if you cannot really become a feminist, because I think
Right.
Marxism and feminism should not be a contradictory ideology, right? uh,
Mm-hmm.
of course there is bourgeois feminism, etc., but I think there had been already enough instances. I mean, let from Rosa Luxemburg to Clara Zetkin, they have always already proved that even within the Marxist tradition, the question of gender has to be dealt. It cannot be always carpeted within the class struggle, or the only frontier is a class frontier, because of course gender itself, how it manifests, it has its own class contradiction, what Engels also have said. So I do believe that if you are a Marxist in true sense, if you are creating an organization which believes in the value of Marxism, then feminism should not be something that you need to accommodate. It should come naturally. The fact that we that the fact that we have to come and talk about feminism so many times, we have to kind of teach or sensitize our male comrades about feminism so much, so many times, so many instances, that speaks a volume about the consciousness in general that society has, and which of course had kind of seepaged among the male comrades as well. I believe it that the marks the struggle for a better world, the struggle for a a equal world, uh, a socialist world. If there you do not bring the question of gender, I think that will be absolutely a treachery to the Marxism, the ideology itself. I still get always very how do I say, inspired or instigated. I would say inspired is a very, it's a very simple term.
Mhm.
Whenever I read about Kolontai and the kind of thing that she has done, imagine in 1917 there is a woman who is making policy where they're saying there has to be community kitchen, there will be creches for children. She's saying that even if you are a, if you're a bastard, in the sense that if your father's identity is not known, then you can be identified by your mother. The amount of
Mhm.
revolutionary potential those age Marxist, feminist, or communist have shown. I mean, it's sad that after so many years in 2025, we have not really advanced that cause. I believe they have done already a lot. The people in between, or whatever, however, the river of the history has gone, we have not really made justice to the kind of development, the kind of advancement they have done to the Marxism, bringing in the gender question within the policy level. So, I do see that even within the, our brand of communism, socialism, or our kind of party structure, the question of gender needs to be taken more seriously. The question of representation, which include not only gender but other marginalized identity, they need
Right.
to be, more seriously. And woman not as an identity, women who are embedded into their social relations.
Mhm.
The Dalit woman, the working class woman, the woman, the Muslim woman, the tribal woman. We should see it on the lens through those social relations. Yeah.
Social relations. That's a very good way of putting it, because the way politics in general. I mean, with the rise of fascist movements the world over, one of the challenges that so-called progressive politics are facing is, I mean, I'm talking about neoliberal politics, like the likes of the US Democrats or the British Labour Party or whoever else. Their understanding of rights, right, their understanding of identity politics, for instance, is more of weaponizing people, and without looking at those social relations, like look holistically, right? And then you look at a certain category of people, and then you end up further marginalizing people who are already marginalized, and then that certain category of people become the low hanging fruit that the right starts to attack. And what you're saying about those looking at social relations, looking holistically at women's representation, I think that is definitely the way to go. So it's a way of challenging. I mean, I'm reminded while you were talking, I was thinking of bell hooks. The way she talks about the imperialist, capitalist, white supremacist patriarchy, right? So she
Mm.
doesn't say intersectionality, which is also obviously a black feminist concept. But
Mm.
what Bell says is that, okay, what we are up against is this imperialist, capitalist, white supremacist patriarchy. So in our part of the world, in South Asia, the white supremacist patriarchy's local version could be the Hindutva patriarchy
Yeah, the
in
suffering
Sri Lanka,
Hindutva patriarchy.
right? Which has very white supremacist kind of fault lines, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And challenging those fault lines, I think, if we say that feminism, like, to me, good feminism, because within feminist movements, like, the ways there are so many divisions, differences. You talk, Françoise Vergès talks about civilizational feminism. I would call it Hillary Clinton feminism, which I cannot absolutely cannot subscribe to. And then the kind of feminism I want to see happening is decolonial feminism that's inspired by indigenous feminist movements, socialist feminist movements, social justice movements, and so on. And good feminism should be feminism that really challenges the capitalist patriarchy, right? The imperialist capitalist core. And so I think the template that you just mentioned is the absolute way to move forward in that direction. So this is such an interesting conversation, comrade. Thank you once again for joining us today. So at this stage, let's shift our attention to God's own country, to Kerala.
Mm-hmm.
And for anyone in the subcontinent or in the broader South Asian region, right, interested in politics of the left, Kerala represents a center point, right? So we have all seen footage of you singing in Malayalam and that beautiful revolutionary song. By the way, absolutely amazing singing skills, and how popular you are in the student circles and in general in the public domain in Kerala. So, what's your relationship with Kerala like? With your current role and everything.
Uh, so I have two primary relation with Kerala. The first is, of course, that organizationally I have been there many a time. I love their culture, and we all say that Bengali and Kerala, they have a lot of similarities. We love fish, we love coconut, we love reading books. Our women are very much upfront. Our women are not like held back by people. We both had the tradition of peasant movement, communist led peasant movement. So there are a lot of similarities, and I thoroughly enjoy Kerala participating in their political process, etc. But the second link that I have is my PhD is on Kerala. So I'm
Right.
working on social capital formation among the left behind household who have gone to Gulf. So my study area is a Punnan, is a small port town in Malabar, and so that is my second connection. So I have been there, and I always joke this that usually when we go for field, people loses their weight because you have to go for 15 hours,
Right.
12 hours, 8 hours traveling, etc. But when I went to Kerala, when I went for my field, I actually gained 5 kgs, because wherever I go to their home for taking their interview, they're going to feed me so well. They're so hospitable. I mean, they're so warm. I mean, that's a Malabari culture. So I think I was a very few people who have really gained weight after completing their field. So yeah, I apart from all the political links that I have, I think I feel very dearly with Kerala. I have many friends. I have family. There is one of our comrade. His name was Sanin. He was a student of Delhi University. He died very early out of meningitis. So his family, his brothers, they all came, and from that time only there is a certain kind of organic connection that
Mhm.
me and many other of my comrades built with that family. So I always feel that anytime if my parents throw me out of my home, there is one home I have in this world, and that is in Kerala. That is Papa, we call him. He passed away a few days ago, unfortunately. But the whole family, Papa, Mama, and their other cousins, I feel very homely, very all nice thing about that place.
Right.
So yeah, so that's my connection with
Right.
Kerala.
And do you speak Malayalam as well?
Not very much, little bit only.
Okay.
Sugamano,
Right.
Sugam, all this,
Oh.
and there are some abuses that my friends have taught, which I'm not going to tell you. So yeah.
Okay. So, talking about Kerala, so what are your thoughts on this one? So, for the longest time, there's been a communist government in Kerala
Mhm.
and progressive politics, right? I mean, the when you look at the basic statistics, you can see how what kind of impact that government has had in the local community. However, we also have a situation where um, there have been critiques of the state government of Kerala when it comes to a range of issues, especially when it comes to gender issues, right? Like even the Hema committee report that it took so many years to be released, and then when it comes to parity, when it comes to women's representation in politics, I would say the red heartland, the communist heartland or heartland of politics of the left in the South Asian region. If you look at Niyamasabha in Thiruvananthapuram, women's representation, it's a very low percentage. When we think of the 12 Lok Sabha seats of Kerala represented in Lok Sabha currently, apart from the recent election of Priyanka Gandhi, there are no women from Kerala who represent Lok Sabha. So, what are your thoughts on this kind of? It's a bit of a to me, it's a bit of a contradiction, right? I think I feel that this is one of the biggest contradictions of politics of the left today. Like in Sri Lanka, for example, just last year, September and November, we elected a government led by
Mhm.
coalition led by the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, which is a Marxist socialist political party.
Right.
Today, that coalition and its engagement with politics of the left is a bit questionable because they've taken a more pragmatic approach because Sri Lanka was very much the crown colony. It was always built as a capitalist extractivist enterprise, and the fault
Mm.
lines of that are still to be seen. So, however, this party was elected. They were at 6%, 3%, and with a lot of hard work, made it to being elected. Now, that campaign, the presidential election campaign and the general election campaign, had women at the heart of it, and in Sinhala, they called it Gahanu Api Ekamitata, us women coming together.
Okay.
However, what happened was, and there was a lot of hope that, in the electoral lists, in the nomination lists, there were quite a few women. And previously in the Parliament of Sri Lanka, women's representation was about 6%. Now it's at 10%, especially thanks to the work of this Janata Vimukti Peramuna-led coalition. However, when they came to power, yes, the prime minister post went to a woman who has personal connections to India. She studied at Delhi University, a social anthropologist by training. However, only two women were given cabinet ministerial posts, and there is absolutely not a single woman in the deputy minister's cohort.
Mm.
So that there is a fine example of that contradiction, right? So it's not only Kerala. This is a problem with the left, where we talk about progressive politics. We like what you said earlier, like women as props as such. During election time, you bring the women in, because in rural communities, for example, women do play a major role in persuading their family members, for example, in terms of voting decisions,
Right.
voting behavior. I think this is something the BJP has understood as well,
Mm.
to a certain extent in their election campaigning. And once they come to power, like you said earlier, when it comes to decision making, it is these gentlemen comrades who take decisions, right? And oh my God, the decision making is, to say that it's problematic is a euphemism. So we have this problem in Kerala, of all places. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think that there are ways in which this can be addressed, right? Whether we can move towards better parity, better representation on the left. I'm not talking about other political persuasions, but what can we do in our own house as such?
Uh, I think the major problem, see, you're absolutely right. It's not a local problem of Kerala Party, or it's not a local problem of CPIM or the Indian Communists in
Right.
that way. It's actually more structural. That is why you see even in Sri Lanka, even in other part of the world, it is a similar kind of pattern that are being repeated. I believe it all comes with the idea of how a ideal comrade should be. I believe the
Mhm.
kind of image that we have painted, that how an ideal revolutionary, how an ideal comrade is, there's a lot of masculine traits involved. So I say this. I mean, it might sound a very silly argument, but I think it is very political. We all have the photo of either Che Guevara or Fidel Castro in our homes, in our wallpapers. We all have their photos where they're smoking cigar, right? Where have their that very prominent cigar in their face, and we have seen so many of our leaders, male, who does it. But 100 years of the Indian Communist Movement, or even more throughout the whole world, you have we see a single woman who has been smoking, or who has been glorified, or who has been celebrated the way the men are. I'm not saying here the smoking is not the thing. Here the person, what Fidel has done, what Che has done, that is the more important thing, absolutely correct. But then why that similar kind of lenses are not applied for women? When a
Right.
man smokes, it's a very cool thing to do, it's a very rebellious thing to do. But when a woman does it, it's almost like a scandal. The woman cannot do it, because even in progressive spaces we have created this image that who can do what, and there is some kind of Lakshman Rekha, as we would say in with the reference of Ramayana, some kind of Lakshman Rekha for women. So until this, you are fine, you're progressive, okay, you're coming out of your home, very progressive. You're becoming part of our organization, very progressive. You are coming for our meeting, very progressive. But the day you say that, okay, my another comrade who and I joined at a similar time, he's smoking, so also can I? Oh my God. You have to think about the society that we are operating in. You cannot behave in certain way. The question is it the individual girl's responsibility to think about the society that you're operating in? or collectively as organization and party, we should have been creating spaces where women do not have to think that they're any less, that there's something,
Mhm.
that they're not, that they cannot attain everything that they want to become. I mean, that's the whole idea of Marxism, right? It's a liberatory project. It says no matter who you are, you can become whatever you want to, we want to become. That's the, I believe, the core idea of Marxism. But then when you say that, if you're a woman, there are certain things that you have to follow. If you're a man, you can wear a mund and you can fold it, and it is going to be a very masculine act. If you're a man in Bengal, you can wear a Punjabi, like a kurta, with all your top buttons open, with half of your chest hair being shown. Nobody's going to question you because that's a cool thing to do. That's how men are. That's how comrades are. That's how leaders are. But imagine a woman doing the same thing. Imagine a woman wearing a sleeveless blouse and, going for the, meeting, proper formal meeting. Maybe now people aren't going to tell her anything, but she's going to be judged. I mean, I have not been able to do it in big programs. I also usually wear clothes which are at least have my hands covered. So, this is something. I mean, this is very superficial, but it has its roots much deeper. How you see women, if you're going to look into the average years that women spend in organization, it's half or even less than that. So men and women start doing organization together, they fall in love. Now, among these two, one has to do the politics, another has to take care of the home. You give me
Right.
examples where the man come and say that, hey, you're a woman. You have made more struggle than me to come here. You become the leader. I'm going to take care of the home. Hardly happens. There, in our SFI, the Bengali journal that they have, I wrote an article this time talking about exactly this, that how many women who used to give slogans once, now they don't do any of them. Now they have just become some comrade's wife, someone's mother. That is the role that they're playing. But they could have been as prominent cadre leader of the Communist Party, just the way their male counterparts are. And this is something which, if you ask me, I don't see it happening like this. I don't think it is going to. I mean, it's so deep rooted. It is the patriarchy, the practice of patriarchy. It is so indebted, so much embedded in our bodies. It is going to take time. I believe a lot of women who are in organization, who are right now in position of power, they have to keep saying it. They have to scream about it. They have to be extremely vocal and loud about it, without thinking that what kind of consequences that she is going to have. Maybe that's the only way that you can, shatter all those walls. That I
Right.
believe today we are here. Today there is some 30 percentage representation of women, is precisely because some women in the previous committees have fought for it, have shouted
Right.
at the other people, maybe have penalized for their actions. But it is because of their action that some of us are here. So I think it's kind of passing the baton. They have passed the baton to me or many like us, and it's our work now to ensure that how much more dent we can make into that world. Yeah.
100%. I mean, that is, I mean, you really touched upon the core there, because those are systemic factors, right? I mean, systemic factors are things that are here to stay, but they can be changed. They can be changed. And for especially young comrades watching this, like young women comrades after with an interest in politics of the left, if they were to watch this, there is hope. There is hope. I mean, we've come a long way, but these things can be changed. However, it's always like you put one foot forward, it's like one step forward, sometimes two steps back. It is a bit like that. Unfortunately, the patriarchy does it to women in general. Like you take a few steps forward and then you take a few steps back, but you have to keep fighting, because these are important battles. The way these gender stereotypes, how you challenge those, and sexist stereotypes that are so present in the left. Otherwise very progressive, otherwise we're very inclusive. We talk about class, we talk about challenging
I
class.
would add, if you don't mind, I'm sorry
Yeah,
to interrupt you.
yeah, by all means.
I think also, any South Asian community, I believe, um, our unit of society had always been the family. And no
Right.
matter whichever party, whichever communist party, wherever we have been in power, none of us have really tried to unsettle that concept. So if there is a family, if you are in a classical patriarchal zone, no matter how progressive you as individual is, the moment you enter that family, your roles are fixed. You cannot
Yeah,
change it.
You
The
cannot
fact
change.
that we have glorified and kind of preserved the whole family system, which, the basis of which had been the patriarchy. The fact that none of us had really, the party, I mean, I understand that since we are an electoral party, you cannot really come out, you cannot really, kind of hit the foundation of the Indian society, etc. But the fact is that that is the root of your all patriarchal relations that are going to, now women are becoming vocal. I was just seeing some reels in Instagram yesterday, where women are coming and saying that we are no more going to stay with our our husband's family. We want our own space. Something that
Wonderful.
I don't think people could say loudly. Say 10 years or 5 years back, there's a lot of stigma that, oh, you're breaking a
Right?
home, you're breaking a family. Now people started asking question that when I'm leaving my parents and coming to your home, I'm doing the same thing. Then why
Mm.
cannot you do? So, since the women are getting more and more, I think, economic empowerment, since they're no more as dependable as to their spouses as they were earlier, I think this question of seeing family not as a patriarchal unit but more as a collective of two people, or their offspring, that kind of ideas are coming. But I believe until and unless those changes in a power relation within the family happens, until and unless we stop seeing our mothers only as homemakers and our father only who provides, until those roles are changed, or there's kind of unsettled, I don't think the changes within the party is going to happen. So first, I think the
Right.
family has to be changed, and then only the effect of that is going to come to the party or the organization or any progressive space. Yeah, I'm sorry for
Right.
interrupting you.
No, 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 no. That's perfect. That's a very, very important point you're making. I mean, I hope people on the left world over get to listen to what you just had to say, because I mean, this is also a universal problem, right? I mean, if you take politics of the left in the United States, for example, or in North America, or in other parts of the world, this issue comes up. And when we say family, especially in the South Asian context, when we say family, what we mean is a cis heteronormative, extremely heteronormative family unit with gender hierarchies and hierarchies when it comes to gender roles and all of that. And just one last note, I mean, I feel really kind of tempted to say this. There was a case I saw in a certain South Asian country,
Mhm.
when you said like two people of the left falling in love, right? Heteronormative kind of love. So there was this comrade who fell in love with another comrade, and so they've been in politics of the left for a long time, and their party came to power, and the female spouse in that relationship is a stellar woman. Like, she's a brilliant organizer who has been in the party circles for the longest time, who has done a great deal of work for that party. She's been like pretty much the backbone lifeblood of that party. But after many years, when the party came to power, the husband got a very prominent cabinet position. The wife is nowhere to be seen. Seriously, nowhere to be seen. Like, not even a deputy minister position. Absolutely
Mhm.
nothing. And so these are big issues, like deep seated issues, like you rightly said, comrade. So I think this conversation is really helpful in delving into why that happens, right? The family unit and all those heteronormativities, all those conservatisms that we have to grapple with. So the like Robert Frost said, what did he say again? Woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. So it's a long way to go. It's a long way ahead.
Yeah.
But it's a worthy fight. It's a fight that needs to be fought,
Mhm.
And so, comrade, just to conclude this section, so you're not only a politician. You mentioned this earlier briefly. You're also a researcher. You're also an academic, with a record of peer-reviewed publications and everything. Can you tell us a bit about your doctoral research? So, what's your discipline?
So I'm a geographer by training.
Mhm,
My specialization, my special paper had been regional development. After that, I
mhm,
have been working on population studies. My MPhil also had been on migration. I
mhm,
worked on how, basically, with your social identity, your class, caste, gender, how that influence your occupational mobility. That was something that I worked in my MPhil. For my PhD, as I told you, I'm working on social capital formation. So
mhm,
when we look into immigrating countries like that of India or say Pakistan or Bangladesh, we talk a lot about the remittance that they're bringing in. For instance,
Right.
Kerala, 30% of their GDP is coming from the remittance that the people are sending. But we do not talk about the social remittances that they're bringing in. What are the values? What are the cultures? What are the thoughts? What are the aspirations that they're bringing in? So I'm basically trying to look into that. You would be just seeing that now all those people who have been deported from America, they have come to India, right? A lot of people from Punjab, Haryana, etc. And just like Kerala, Punjab also has this culture of migration where people go
Mhm.
to abroad, particularly Canada and UK and America, as kind of a generational thing. One person from each family will tend to go, and there's an aspiration, and it's very interesting. So one person who got deported, he started having a auto business of himself now. And you know what did he write in his auto? He wrote
Mhm.
deported by USA. So the fact that he went there, he was deported, even that he made out of, he made it a capital, that this is something also he's
Mhm.
showing off. That, okay, I was deported from America, but I went there. If you're going to see, there are so many social media accounts who are posting that they're going through the donkey route. They're doing live streaming from there that, hello, brothers, I'm here in the Panama, this thing forest now. We have done donkey now. We are entering the US now. So this kind of thing. So this is not only material. So you are spending 1 crore rupees or say 40 lakh rupees, 50 lakh rupees to just to go to America. That 40 lakh, 50 lakh rupees you could have just invested in your hometown and could get something out of it. But the fact is that there is this culture of migration, this aspiration that you have to migrate to Gulf. For the people of Kerala, there is this Gulf migration, that they have to go to Gulf. That is their go-to thing. A boy who is like 16 years, 17 years, he's all there. He's preparing himself that I have to go to Gulf. If he does not go, as if he's a failure. So how those understanding, how those aspirations have been created, that's not only money. There is a lot of social capital. There's a lot of network, how the networks work, how the aspirations are built, from your clothes, from your sartorial choices to the kind of house that you're building. All this kind of has not been discussed much. So I thought that in my thesis I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to see beyond tangible material things, that social capital and cultural capital, it plays a huge role in deciding whether to migrate or not, whether somebody can migrate or not, or what kind of world that they're going to build after the migration.
Right.
So yeah.
That's extremely very interesting, and I think there'll be a lot of transferable interest, also relevance of that doctoral work to other contexts in the region and beyond as well. So, and the thesis submission is also coming up
Yeah.
soon. Wow.
Yeah,
Think,
after a long time,
uh,
finally it's
so
happening. So
all the
fingers
best,
crossed.
Comrade, with the doctoral work, and hope it all goes well. The latter stages of it, quite an exciting time. So, in our concluding section, let's talk elections. So now you have stood for a couple of very serious elections. One is the West Bengal Legislative Assembly election,
Mhm.
2021 it was, right?
Yeah.
And then 2024 Lok Sabha general election. And so what is it like? I mean, we have seen, all of us have seen your media appearances, media houses coming to you in the middle of your election campaigns, and providing coverage for your campaigns and how you engage in your election campaigns with your local community and so on. But very briefly, to an international guest who's not necessarily very familiar with the local politics of West Bengal, what is it like to engage in politics of the left, like your brand of politics, in
Mhm.
a state with a very powerful, I would say, state-centric political party? You know,
Mhm.
and what is that experience like?
So I think there are two sides of it. One, the moment you are a CPIM candidate, of course you're a young politician, etc. But I think there is always this burden of 34 years. So for 34 years you have been there. It's not possible for you that you have done everything right. There are many
Mhm.
things that you have done which is not right, which I might have as individual might not agree to it. But since you are representing that party, you have to be accountable for everything. So
Mhm.
what was the major challenge? I would say that burden. That, oh, that time also this happened. What is the guarantee that you are not going to do the same? So
Right.
breaking that kind of a barrier was one major problem. The second thing is also the kind of binary that has been created in West Bengal politics, binary on the line of the religion, something that we have never experienced in Bengal before 2011. See, Bengal is, I mean, I myself come from a refugee family. My grandparents, my great grandparents, all came from Bangladesh after the partition around 1950s. So immediately after the partition, they didn't move because they thought that even if they're Hindu, this is their land. They're born here. They can stay here.
Mhm.
But then, post the Noakhali riot, when people started getting killed and the riot, spread in 1950 onwards, my great grandparents, they have all, come this side. So a lot of people who are right now in left, they actually come from families like us, refugee families, who have a history of communal violence. But it is due to the left's intervention from the beginning, struggling with them for their land rights, struggling with them for their citizen right. Somehow, the hatred towards a certain community, that hatred was taken away. All those energy, all those emotions were channelized towards a class struggle. But post 2011, due to the kind of politics that Mamata Banerjee introduced, where more than your ideological position, your social position, your identity, that became the more important thing. If you're a Motua, if you're a Muslim, so that kind of changed the whole scenario, the political template of Bengal. And after that, you see from 2014 onwards and 2019 especially, BJP became the second largest force because the
Right.
kind of identity. Because if you evoke identity, if you say that okay, if you're a Muslim, you should vote for me. If you're Motua, you should vote for me. So you're creating a space where BJP can come and say, if you're a Hindu, you should vote for me. And that's exactly what has happened. So now there is this binary that people, if you're Hindu, you vote for us. If you're Muslim, you vote for TMC. So in those kind of binary, anyone who is having a third political pole does not get a space. And that is what we are facing now. Since the Muslim percentage in Bengal is almost 30%. They're saying that we are not agreeing with Mamata Banerjee all the time. We understand that, there's a lot of corruption. Our children are not getting education. Our children are not getting job. The percentage of out migration from Bengal has been like in top high. I mean, particularly from Muslim communities, Muslim rural people. They're forced to go out of the state, work in different North Indian states and getting lynched there by the cow slaughterers. All these things are happening and people are acknowledging it. But what they are saying that I understand Mamata Banerjee is horrible. But what if we vote for you, you do not win and BJP win? If BJP comes, they're going to slaughter us in our own house. How we are going to, and we actually don't have answer to it. So when there is this binary of BJP versus TMC, having a third pole, having a third alternative, it's a little difficult to justify, difficult to convince. But I would still say that from 2020 onwards, there's certain kind of progress. For instance, the constituency that where I contested this time, the Srirampur Lok Sabha, we have got 84,000 more votes from the last time. So there is a increase in the vote share. More people has voted for us, but that increase is not enough for us to win an election. But I believe that we have to stay more consistent. We have to stay there, give people this confidence that we can. I think one major problem, if you're a young woman, a lot of people think, oh, you're a great speaker, but will you be able to fight with all those people? They're so bad people, nasty people. Will you be able to manage them? I said, yes, I have beaten so many goons in my college days, in my university days. You give me a chance. But I understand it's not very easy for them to have those kind of faith. So I think it's twofold. One, ideological, that you have to find and have to convince people for a third alternative. And the second, you as individual, you as young woman, has to really prove yourself that you are capable. Trust me, have faith
Right.
on me. I'll be able to represent you. So yeah, both.
And thank you for that answer, comrade. And also, one thing that is clearly noticeable on social media is, I mean, people, I mean, who gets to come on social media as well, right? I mean, it's that also has a certain dimension of access to these tech tools, literacy, all of that, right?
Mhm.
And on social media, whenever, I mean, media houses, accounts of media houses that have covered you, below any footage, I mean, the comments they get that people write about you are very positive. most of the time.
Mm.
And especially during the Lok Sabha election campaign, a lot of people would comment saying, okay, I'm not a CPIM supporter, but Comrade Dipsita needs to be in the Lok Sabha. And
Mm.
there's an overwhelming outpour of support for you as well. And that's very beautiful to see. It comes from most probably other constituencies, maybe other states as well. However, it's a first past the post system. It's a Lok Sabha election, and it's decided within one constituency, and it's a contest of numbers, right?
Mm.
And that is where the crunch happens, and the crunch is shaped by what you just explained, the polarization, the identity politics that Trinamool has developed in West Bengal. What are your thoughts on this one? Like, let's say next Lok Sabha election is when 2029, I
Yeah.
think.
Mm.
So by that time, when Comrade Dr. Dipsita Dhar comes back to the Lok Sabha election, do you think that, like you said a minute ago, if the CPIM stays, and tries to work with local communities and comes up with a project, comes up with a clear plan, and stays consistent, what are your thoughts on whether this vote count, this tide can be turned? And I personally believe that the tide can be turned, but what are your thoughts?
I think it can be. We just have to be a little bit more focused on, what is important, that you see the pattern. Ru. I was looking
Mhm,
into the vote share in different booths,
mhm,
and there we see a very interesting pattern. So places which is say a Muslim dominated area, the TMC is going to get a lot of vote. We are going to be number second. BJP is definitely
mhm,
not going to be there. A region which has a lot of Hindus, there even if BJP is getting more than us, we are still little, we are not like very far away. But the
mhm,
moment you come to places which are mixed, or say places which are in border, you will see a stark difference. So some people are
right.
voting for BJP, some people are voting for TMC. We're not getting any votes. So then we should understand that there are some section of people where our words have reached. There are some
Mhm,
people where we could still have a conversation, and there are some people where we are not there at all. So I think if we
mm,
actually envision somehow, we can plan in such a way where we find out the places we are absolutely not there. What is the reason? What are the reasons? If we can very minutely observe them and intervene with them, and in the places where you're actually getting accepted, if you are going to put some more effort there, I believe it is possible. A lot of young people, like as you were telling, that I know people from Trinamool. I have their numbers and everything also, who are Trinamool members. They are like Trinamool almost leaders. They contacted me and said that we are going to vote for you, not because anything else, but because we believe that whatever you have been saying, a lot of people has not said it in all these years. You are talking about our issues. It's true, my family, there are 5 people who are working outside. They're migrant laborers, and no political party so far, including my party, has thought of a plan for them. You are coming and talking about it. I don't know whether you're going to win or not, but I'm going to vote for you. So I believe there are many people who wants to vote for us. We just have to give them this confidence that if you vote for us, we are going to do it. We'll be able to win it. So if in the local body elections, like the panchayats, like the municipality election, if we target few areas, we give all our strength, and if we can get some victory, I think that's going to create a faith on people that we are not going to waste our vote by giving them. If we
mhm.
vote for them, they are going to win. That's the only thing that we have to go and kind of convince people to. So yeah, I hope our comrades are going to work hard. And even I'm not sure, I mean, in our party it doesn't happen like whoever has become a candidate this time, they are going to be the next time as well. But even if it's somebody else, I think there is a chance that we are going to do much better than whatever we have achieved this year.
Wow, bless. That's the spirit. That's the spirit, comrade. Because like Sri Lanka's JVP, right? Janata Vimukti
Mm.
Peramana, 2015, 6%, 2010, 10%, 2015, 6%, 2020, 3%. And now it's about over 60%. It's 159
Yeah.
out of 225 seats in parliament. And there are issues. I mean, some on some comrades who have come in, they're quite new to politics. They haven't been in politics before, so there are can be like practical issues, but however, they made it happen. So I think the secret behind that is that consistency and being present and identifying the demographics where the party and that message is not present. And the other side of this is also these capitalist patriarchal politics, right? These divisive identity politics based politics can't run for long. I
That's
mean,
what.
people are going to end up noticing sooner or later, like, okay, you're talking constantly Hindutva, but, we have very major systemic issues that we're dealing with. But there should be that trigger point, CPM, if you go and really zoom in on those issues, those everyday issues that people are affected by, irrespective of whether you're Muslim or Hindu, that would be the turning point. But then that work needs to be done consistently. And I do think that it is possible to make that change happen, but it is a process. It's not going to happen overnight, but with some consistency over a certain period of time, that it is possible. And so that's a hopeful note. And to kind of conclude, like, what are your thoughts on this intransigence of the power politics of West Bengal, like we saw when there was a major tragedy, a very unfortunate tragedy of misogynist violence, gender-based violence that happened. The way in which the Trinamool government reacted, and so you've been very vocal about that reaction and about how the state government of West Bengal reacted or worked with that act of tremendous violence, that tragedy. So also we have a situation in West Bengal where I think this whole idea of women being in power, women in positions of power, there is this assumption that okay, things might change to the positive, but that is the falsehood, right? Because there are a couple of things there. One is that if you're a woman in power, but if you're still running a very patriarchal, very oppressive, very capitalist establishment, and if you're not doing anything about changing those things and building the right kind of support network around you, then you are going to behave like whoever else is in power. Does the gender or sex doesn't matter. And then there is the thing where you have people who are very progressive. In other words, you see them talking, you would think that, oh my God, they're so progressive, they're brilliant, and with the right kind of language skills. I mean, in the Indian subcontinent, the way when you speak English fluently, you're seen with a certain level of certain level of how do you say that, even better acceptance, I would say. And people who have had successful careers. I mean, because we also live in the subcontinent in a society where career and your whatever it is that you achieve in terms of your financial stability and all of that is seen as very important. So if you've been in investment banking, and if you who happen to be the proud donor of a residence in South Kensington, London, and then you sell all that and come to do politics back home in your home country, kind of thing. Okay, those are impressive things to our people, right? And that creates, I mean, what I'm trying to get at is there is an element of girl boss feminism here, this Western liberal girl boss feminism kind of thing. You talk about gender, you talk about violence against women, you talk
Hillary
all.
Clinton kind of feminism.
What is it?
Hillary Clinton kind of feminism, just
Ah,
born from
exactly.
it.
Yes, Hillary Clinton feminism. Or you can call it Kamala Harris feminism as well nowadays.
Yeah.
And in the South Asian region, you could also call it such and such feminism. I'm the name that I don't want to really mention. And so so you get all of that in West Bengal, right? You get all of that in West Bengal. And there are people, in other words, there are women in positions of power, but women being in power alone doesn't help us address systemic issues, systemic violence of the capitalist patriarchy, A. And B, if there are women in power who do not address those issues, there is another trend. France's former Justice Minister, Christiane Taubira, she wrote a book, she's a black woman, she wrote a book recently, about 2 years ago. And in that book, she says that power has an effect on women, like pouvoir endurcit les femmes. So power kind of toughens up women. So basically, you're accumulating certain very toxic
Mhm.
masculine traits in how you act and how you execute your power as a woman in politics, or woman in a position of political power, as a
Mhm.
minister or a parliament. You get that element to that as well. So West Bengal, it's not like Kerala. In Kerala, like you said, there are no, out of the 12 Lok Sabha seats, none of them are
Mhm.
by women. But West Bengal is different. You have a certain element of, Mount
Mhm.
Holyoke College, JP Morgan, girl boss feminism. You have all of that in West Bengal. However, we have seen how ineffective that kind of politics
Yeah.
has been. So, what are your thoughts on women in politics sometimes carrying the weight of the patriarchy?
Yeah.
And what does this reality tell us about, women's representation in politics, and about what women in politics of the left can possibly do better in how we go about our political work?
Mhm.
So I think the question is, of course, I was telling it initially also when you're talking about representation, that
Mm-hmm,
it's not about just women being represented. It's also about their social relation. As you have correctly pointed out, if someone who is coming from a certain kind of privilege, who are sitting in a mountain of a privilege, why she or he is leaving all those things and coming to politics? Is it, I mean, what is the logic? Is it some kind of ideological strive that, okay, I'm a communist, or I suddenly, when I'm 30 years old, I read Karl Marx and I have realized that I'm going to be a socialist now, so I'm leaving my corporate job and running back to my home? It's not like that. For people like them, they have switched from one career to another. For them, politics is just a career. She's
mm-hmm,
here to come to the parliament, give fiery speech about five signs of fascism, seven signs of fascism. The same signs she does not see in her own state, in her own constituency. The person that both of us are mentioning, this election, there is a video which got viral. One of her, karyakarta, one of her political party leader, he was coming and giving this open threat that the left people, I don't want to see you in front of the polling booth next day. The Hindu people, do not go and vote for here and there. If you want to stay with a lot of peace and harmony, you know where you have to vote. If you have to go vote for that person, after election we are going to show you your place. This is happening in the constituency of the most vocal female parliamentarian of India. The fact that she didn't say a single word, or the fact that she has facilitated a structure where people like that, such reactionary people, have the power to do all this thing just to ensure that she win another time, that speaks a volume about that there is no ideological spirit, or there's no ideological push why she is here in politics. Here she is in politics so that she can have that kind of lifestyle what she had while she was working in JP Morgan. That kind of
mm-hmm,
lifestyle with little more of polishness, some kind of social status. And since the BJP is in power, so anybody who speaks against BJP becomes the epitome of progressiveness. So all those kind of social images that she can gather and write it down. So I do not see any kind of hope in her. And so, as for our Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, yes, she is a woman. Yes, she is the first Chief Minister of West Bengal. And yes, I take it self-critically that even in 34 years, we could not make a single woman Chief Minister. That's an absolute thing of a shame. We should really reflect and look into ourselves. But the fact, the moment she became the Chief Minister, the first woman Chief Minister of West Bengal, when a rape happened in 25th December during the Christmas night in Park Street, she comes and say that, oh, no rape has happened. This woman is saying all this thing, faking all this thing just to malign my government. So even if you're a woman, if your consciousness is of that of a patriarchal man, or if you speak patriarchy, I mean, she's also a Savarna woman, both the woman that we are talking about. It's a Savarna, the patriarchy that both of them, the Brahminical patriarchy that both of them are carrying. So
mm-hmm,
when number of gender, discrimination or sexual harassment, killing, rape, we all know about the last thing that has happened, Tilottama,
mm-hmm,
for the whole country. And of course, the people in Bengal, they took to the streets. Today is her birthday, unfortunately, and people in Kolkata, they are still protesting, remembering her, and etc. It was so shameless for the parliamentarian that we are talking about coming and defending the government, where everybody in their naked eyes could see that there's a lot of government officials and the state and the political party involved, or something so brutal could not be just said as a, a suicide, and could not be, carpeted. This all happened because the state and the political party in the dispensation, they all were in hands and gloves. So I think it's important that when you talk about representation, I think the ideology is more important. So that's why I was telling that, all this political formation that has happened, which very proudly claim themselves as post ideological formation, like the the Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, or the Trinamool in West Bengal, they claim themselves to be post ideological, right? They're neither right, they are not left. They can be right when they want to be, they can be left they want to be. They can actually appease the Hindutva when it favors them for their political benefits, and next day they can be very welfareist the day it suits them, and borrow some kind of left ideology, some left coinage and some left jargon from the
Mm.
left. So all this post ideological formation or whatever, I believe all of them are nothing but just right wing formations, just masking themselves as whatever they are. So that lack of ideology, that lack of progressive ideology, is something that no matter what representation you have, it is not going to bring any change. Because you as an individual being there does not mean anything if you don't stand up for people that you're representing. If I'm a Dalit, if I'm being elected, and if I do not, scream and shout and protest against the Dalit atrocities that are happening, it doesn't really matter anything. If you're a Dalit, if you're a Savarna, until and unless you fight for the cause. So what has happened in Bengal is there are so many women, but if you're going to look into some of those women, they don't have any kind of political background in the sense, no activist background. They have never been activists. Somebody had been, say, a singer, somebody had been an actor, and just before election, they become like, I want to work for people. In Bangla, we say, মানুষের জন্য কাজ করতে চাই. I want to work for people. I don't know why they didn't work for people while they were their own profession. Just before election, there's this urge of working for people and society, and they became politician. And since the political party has a machinery to gather vote, they become our parliamentarian, they become our representative, and then they don't do anything, nothing they do.
Apart from an occasional speech at Lok Sabha.
Yeah, and carrying some branded bags which she has to
Branded bags and
hide. Yeah.
Bengal handloom saris and all of that, and attending this with these Lutyens Delhi journalists,
Yeah.
like that guy, what's his name, Karan Thapar, and
Yeah.
talking about the kind of handlooms and fashion style and all of that. So there we are, comrade. So to conclude, the point here is that this kind of girl boss feminism, or women being in politics just for the sake of being in politics,
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you again? I'm very sorry.
yeah, no, by all means.
No, I thought when you said that girl boss thing, the first person that came to my mind was Margaret Thatcher. I mean, I don't think if at all you have to understand that woman in power not necessarily is always for the woman. She's the,
Mhm.
I think, the biggest example of it. I mean,
100%.
what about the woman who are the workers? What about
Right.
the woman who came from working class family? What did you do becoming the the woman minister? So yeah, yeah, sorry.
And comrade, the most tragic part of that is she herself doesn't come from an aristocratic background. She
That's
was the
what.
daughter of a man who ran a shop. So
Mhm.
she also comes from quite a working class background, and look at how her policies were so much against everyday women, basically. And you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. So this is where we need to kind of make keep our understanding of things holistic. When we think about women's participation in party and electoral politics, women in politics, what we are talking about actually is transformative politics. What we're talking about is changing the world, like one
Absolutely.
step at a time, yes. But like you said earlier, the patriarchy, the family structure, we may not be able to change it all by tomorrow or by next month, but we are in the business of transformation, right? But in the business of working towards a better world, actually. And if you don't have that spirit, it doesn't matter what your gender is, your work in politics is not going to be very effective.
True.
So I think that is the final message. And through your work so far, through your political messaging, through your election campaigns, through your student organizing, you have shown that you are in the right kind of business, that you are here genuinely for, for very transformative politics. And you're doing that with a lot of patience. And you're also doing that work, bringing people together. And it's very clear that the way in which people embrace you in Kerala, and how much you're loved in West Bengal and elsewhere, and it's very clear the way in which you communicate your political messaging seems to have a very tangible impact on a lot of people. So, Comrade Dipsita, it has been a tremendous honor and a privilege to host you in this podcast. And we couldn't have found a better special guest for our inaugural episode for a podcast named Sisterhood in Politics. So, thank you very much for joining us today. And it's been a great pleasure, and all the very best with your work. And to conclude, are you in a mood for a bit of poetry? Would you like to sing your song in Malayalam?
Um, okay. I always say that there's only one song that I know completely, this
Yes.
song. And I've sang it so many times, it almost becomes synonymous to me. But okay, I think we can end with it in a
Bless.
good spirit, in a revolutionary spirit, where the peasant demands and dreams of a land of their own, where
Yeah.
they think that they're going to take it from the landlords. So I
That's
hope
now,
we as a
now that
woman,
song is Comrade Dipsita's song from like it has become so.
it has. So I hope we as sisters, as we said that we are having a conversation about the sisterhood, I hope we as sisters, as comrades, we are going to be able to snatch away all the rights, everything that we deserve, everything that we should
Absolutely.
have from this whole patriarchal, capitalist, white supremacist system. And just the way, whatever that song says, I think with that spirit only, we are going to end our conversation here.
Right.
Okay. நம்மளு கொய்யும் வயலெல்லாம் நம்முரிதாகும் பைங்கிಲಿ ಅರುಮಕ್ಕಿರಿಯೇ ನೀರು ನೀರು ಬೆರುದೆ ಪುರುದಂ ಪರಾಯಾದೆ ನಮ್ಮಲು ಕೊಯ್யும் ಬಯಲುകൾ ಜನ್ಮಿ ತಮಿಳ ಕಲ್ಲುಡೆ ದಲ್ಲೆ ಜನ್ಮಿ ತಮಿಳ ಕಲ್ಲುಡೆ ದಲ್ಲೆ ಅಲ್ಲಾನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಾನೆ ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲೇ நம்மளு கொய்யும் வயலெல்லாம் நம்முரிதாகும் பைங்கிಲಿ ಅರುಮಕ್ಕಿರಿಯೇ ನೀರು ನೀರು ಬೆರುದೆ ಪುರುದಂ ಪರಾಯಾದೆ. Thank you.
Oh, bless. Thank you very much, Comrade. Listen, it's been a tremendous pleasure and a great honor to host you. And thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for joining us today. All the very best, Comrade, and very big Lal Salam, and more power to you.